Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the Meteo France and ECMWF seasonal models for today's second video. This takes us through the rest of the autumn and into the winter period as well. So I'm going to show you the mean sea level pressure anomaly maps first of all, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those mean sea level pressure anomalies. Then at the end of the video we'll have a look, because these are seasonal charts, at the end of the video, have a look at the month-by-month breakdowns at website weather.us. We're starting off at Copernicus, though, so you can find me a link to both Copernicus and weather.us on the links page. So do check out the charts for yourself if you would like to do that. Just to say that today's first video was the big one. It was the fourth Winter 2018-19 update. It's a bit of an ocean special. This one we're going back through the archives and seeing whether we can find any matches to the current Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies, but also many other things. Of course, got some out-of-the-box analogues. We're looking at solar activity as well. All of the regular things that look at in the winter update. So that video is currently on the homepage. Later on today, it will be placed on the winter updates page. There'll be a written summary that goes with that as well. So do have a look at the fourth winter update if you'd like to do that. But now I think better get on with the Meteo France and also the ECMWF seasonal model update. So we're going to begin with a mean sea level pressure anomaly from Meteo France for the period of October, November, December. So this is essentially for the final quarter of 2018. So we can see we've got these yellow colours here out to the west and also to the northwest of the British Isles. That is above average pressure. It's high pressure sitting in the northern part of the Atlantic. Otherwise, not a lot else going on, but with high pressure out to the northwest of the country, you'll probably expect to be seeing the jet stream being on a little bit of a northwest southeast trajectory here. So possibly bringing cooler air into northern parts of the country in particular. Then we go through to the next tri-monthly period. This one takes us through November, December, January 2018-19, so we're into the early winter period here, and this looks interesting. We've got an area of high pressure then being centred around Greenland and the northern part of the Atlantic. Low pressure into central parts of Europe, and this will bring down, I would have thought, quite cold northerly, northeasterly influences between the low pressure that we've got there across central parts of Europe and high pressure that we have across Greenland. I see no reason why we shouldn't be bringing cold air from a northeasterly direction. That could be a cold start to the winter of 2018-2019. Maybe the risk of some early widespread snowfalls, perhaps in December, possibly through to January as well. And then we're on to the next tri-monthly period, and this covers the full winter 2018-19 period. This is November. This is December, January, February. So again, it looks quite interesting. We have high pressure out to the west and also to the northwest of the country, with low pressure across central parts of Europe. Again, this does look potentially quite cold. You would expect there to be a trough ready within the 500 millibar flow as the jet stream is going something like that. The only thing is that the block isn't quite centred over Greenland. It's more centred to west of the country. So you might start to get some Atlantic type influences coming around the top of the high pressure. So maybe just modifying the cold. I think the coldest period there looks to be the period for November, December, January. And then whilst December, January, February, the actual winter itself could be cold, maybe some moderation from the Atlantic. But it is a very interesting chart on its own terms, with high pressure out here and also up there and low pressure across there. You would still be expecting a lot of northerly influences to be in with that. But I think the Meteo France season model is probably hinting at more of a front-loaded type winter. Now, don't expect the temperature anomalies to show anything particularly cold, because they never do really with these seasonal charts. This is the temperature anomaly for Europe from Meteo France for October, November and December as well. You'll see actually very mild end to the year across many sort of central and eastern parts of Europe, significantly above average temperatures really in central eastern Europe, with anomalies of like half a degree to over 1 degree above average. In the west, it is cooler, so the UK and Ireland actually coming out as just about the coolest places in Europe, but still a little bit above average, really still half a degree above average, particularly for England and Wales. The next tri-monthly period takes us through November, December, January, and this just looks far too mild to me based on the mean sea level pressure anomaly. Remember, what's happening here is that we have high pressure out here and up across Greenland as well, with low pressure sitting somewhere around there. So the mean wind direction is going to have to be northerly or northeasterly, and yet the model is still going for a much warmer than average temperature anomaly through many parts of Europe. Yes, the UK and Ireland are one of the coolest places in Europe. We're around average, or we have no signal. But I would have thought Central Europe, Scandinavia, in that kind of scenario, is likely to be colder than average, perhaps substantially so. So, as is often the case with these seasonal models, I think that is overdoing the temperature far too much based on the mean sea level pressure anomaly that we have there. And then we go through to the final tri-month period, which is actually the tri-month period for winter 2018-19. It's December, January, February. You see that Europe is cooling down quite a lot. The warmer than average temperature anomalies are being pushed into the very far south and southeast of Europe, particularly around Greece, Turkey, the Black Sea. Most other areas are just going like to average temperature anomaly. I'm not sure what's going on there through the Baltic Sea. That would be a lot colder than that. I would have went back to some parts of the Baltic Sea, would probably be frozen up by that point. But anyway, it is cooling things down back towards average. But again, based on the height anomaly, I would have thought that's too warm really for any central eastern parts of Europe. For the northwest, because we do have a little bit of moderation, I think, later in the winter from the Atlantic. So with more of a northwesterly wind, you would probably expect temperatures to be lifting up a little bit for the UK and for Ireland, possibly for Scandinavia to some degree as well. But conversely, I think it's still too high. So that may be okay for the UK, for Ireland, for Scandinavia. But I think for Central Eastern Europe, again, that is probably too warm based on the mean sea level pressure anomaly. So always the heights, the pressure and the heights I take most seriously with these charts, and less so temperature and precipitation. Talking of precipitation, this is what Meteo France is seeing for the coming tri-monthly period, October, November, December. Basically, most parts of Europe have very weak signals. You'll notice it is a lot drier than average out to the northwest of the British Isles. So again, presumably that's hinting at high pressure to be out in the northern part of the Atlantic. But otherwise, most areas across Europe are coming out with near normal or no signal for October, November, December. It does look quite wet around Italy and some central parts of the Mediterranean, perhaps. Then we go through to the next tri-month period. It's November, December, January. Again, very weak signals. It looks quite wet again around Italy and central parts of Europe. Also, possibly some above average rainfall through parts of Spain. Around the UK, also looking a little bit above average with the precipitation. Remember, at this point, the model wants to have below average pressure, low pressure across central parts of Europe, really, with high pressure blocking things out up here. And you would have thought kind of like a northeasterly influence. So a lot of that precipitation, but it's going for there around the UK, could well be wintry type stuff, I would have thought. And then we're through to the next tri-monthly period. This is December, January, February, so it's the full winter 2018-19 period. You'll notice eastern, central east parts of Europe are going rather wetter than average. Looks very wet, potentially down across the Black Sea. Very wet winter is possible around Italy too. Then otherwise, just again, not a huge amount to go on, really. Very weak signals for precipitation. Does look rather above average with precipitation around the coast of the UK. Again, that might be something wintry going on. Notice how dry it is through the northern part of the Atlantic. So again, very interesting update, though, this. And really the mean sea level pressure is what I'm most interested in, and that does hint at potentially a cold, particularly early part to the winter. So that's Meteo France. This is the ECMWF seasonal model. So again, this is mean sea level pressure anomalies. We're looking at October, November, December, first of all. The model is going in the coming tri-monthly period, for final tri-monthly period of 2018. It's going for high pressure to be over Scandinavia, and low pressure is kind of in the middle part of the Atlantic. So you would expect quite a lot of easterly sort of influences with this. Of course, with the continent rapidly cooling down, especially through November and December, easterly winds could be quite cold. Do bear in mind, these are 3 monthly anomalies, so you will get deviations. This is how the anomalies come out over sort of 90-day period, but within that 90-day period, you will obviously get periods that deviate from that anomaly. So it's not going to be like a Scandinavian high dominating from the 1st of October to New Year's Eve. There will be deviations from that, but the model is signalling quite clearly a Scandinavian high overall for the final quarter of 2018. Things get more interesting as we go through to November, December, January, because that area of high pressure is expanding. It's moving from Scandinavia, and basically this is very significant northern blocking that we've got going on here. High pressure is stretching out from Scandinavia through Iceland to Greenland. We've got low pressure underneath it going into Central Europe. The jet stream will be down here as well. So it's a southerly tracking jet stream. The NAO is negative with that high pressure blocking things out. To the north, we'll be bringing winds in from an easterly direction. That looks really potentially cold as we go through November, December and January. And then we get to the final tri-monthly period, which is going to be December, January, February. And look at that. If you want a cold winter, that's about as good as you'll get, really, with high pressure there dominating this winter from Scandinavia, and it's going to Iceland through the Norwegian Sea, and it's heading up to Greenland as well. Again, we've got the low pressure down here from the Central Atlantic into the Mediterranean. The jet stream is down there as well. And of course, with the blocking up here, you would expect winds to be coming in from an easterly direction. That is the kind of thing you're looking for if you want a cold winter. There's no getting away from it. I often try with these updates not to go too over the top, but if you want a cold winter, that is as good as it's going to get, really. And let's just hope, if you are wanting a cold winter, it's not going to be downhill with the ECMWF seasonal model from there. But I can't sort of go any other way from that, other than to say it's very blocked in the northern latitudes. We've got the AO tanking, we've got the NAO tanking, we've got the jet stream going into the Mediterranean, we've got easterly winds favoured. I mean, it just doesn't get any more clearer cut for a cold winter. But again, the temperature anomalies probably won't do anything particularly interesting. This is temperature anomaly for October, November, December. Not as warm in this final tri-monthly period of the year as the Meteo France model was, but still, again, most parts of Europe like average to a little bit warmer than average for that tri-monthly period. UK looks close to average. Some northern, interestingly, eastern parts of the country probably because of what's happening with the warm sea surface temperature anomalies that we've got at the moment in the North Sea, left over from the summer. Just to our north-northeast, it does look a little bit warmer than average. But again, I think based on pattern, that's probably a little bit too warm, if anything. Let's go through to our next tri-monthly period. This one takes us through November, December, January. Again, most parts of Europe are cooling down, so it's not a particularly warm scene there. But based on the height anomaly, really it looks far too mild again, really, for most parts of Europe. And then we're through to the final trimester period, which is December, January, February. You remember at this point we are very, very blocked. Again, I'll show you the height anomaly that we've got going on. So that is the, I should say, mean sea level pressure anomaly. That is the mean sea level pressure anomaly that we got there for the winter of 2018-19, and this is the temperature anomaly. It doesn't really stack up. Where it is correct is to be warmer than average up here. So you'd expect where we've got the blocking, of course, up in the northern latitudes, temperature anomalies there are going to be warmer than average. So that makes sense. You've got high pressure up there blocking things out. That's the reason it's warmer than average up there is because it's pushing the cold air down into the mid-latitudes via the blocking. And so where are the colder than average, where are the colder than average temperature anomalies? I mean, based on this mean sea level pressure anomaly, you would expect cold air to be forced out from sort of Russia and Siberia and out from the Arctic as well. And you would just expect much of Europe to be colder than average, obviously, with that kind of mean sea level pressure anomaly. So it's overcooking the temperatures based on the pressure anomaly. And that's not to say that the pressure anomaly will come off. If the pressure anomaly doesn't come off, then it won't be cold. But we're assuming that the model is correct, big assumption, we're assuming that that is how the mean sea level pressure anomaly will turn out for the winter of 2018-19, because that's what it's forecasting. If it does turn out like that, then most parts of Europe and the UK and Ireland included in that would be substantially, very substantially colder than what that is showing. Where I do agree again is that southeastern parts of Europe are forecast to be warmer. That is often the case when you have a cold winter for northern, central, western Europe. The southeast of Europe will tend to be one of the warmer places. So that again does make sense. And then finally, precipitation with the ECMWF seasonal model. So this is how it's looking. Many southern parts of Europe for the trimester period, October, November, December, coming out wetter than average. So continue to be quite wet down through particularly eastern parts of the Med. Otherwise, again, weak signals. Does hint at being a bit drier than average up here, perhaps. You would expect that because that's where the model wants to have high pressure to be dominating. Then we go through to the next trimester period, November, December, January. Look how much drier than average it is to the north of the British Isles up here. So again, you've got high pressure up there, and that's why it's drier than average. Notice it's beginning to turn a bit wetter than average through there, and possibly hinting at being a bit wetter than average through the Med. But it's really in the southeastern part of the Med, but it does look like being a particularly sort of wet winter down there. And then finally we go through to the next tri-monthly period. This one takes us through winter, December, January, February. And again, you would expect actually it to be rather wetter than this through Spain, Portugal, North Africa, because the jet stream looked like it's running in from the Atlantic in that sort of direction. So the southeast of Europe will probably be wet with this pattern, yes, but you'll also expect this area to be quite a bit wetter than that showing as well. Further north, drier than average conditions up here. That's indicative of the high pressure and the blocking that's going on. Otherwise, most other parts of Europe are coming out with average precipitation again. You would actually expect much of northern Europe to be drier than average due to cold air holding less moisture than warm air. But of course, what precipitation does fall would likely be snow in that very blocked type mean sea level pressure anomaly that we're seeing there. And then finally, I just want to break this down on a month-by-month basis with the ECMWF. The light's going up and down here, so I'm hoping that the power's not going to go off. It's very wet and windy outside just at the moment, so hopefully I can get this recording done before maybe we lose the power. But I'm going to persevere. So this is the mean sea level pressure. This is from weather.us, by the way. So again, this is the ECMWF season model, the same model we were just looking at Copernicus, but this is breaking things down on a month-by-month basis. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for October. I'll just run you through this very quickly. So in October The model has that area of high pressure over Scandinavia, of course. You've got low pressure out here. Got a bit of a reach down to the southwest as well. So quite a bit of anticyclonic influences during October. Let's go through to November, and very different in November. Heights are really lowering. It does show that we have some sort of high pressure close to Iceland. We've got low pressure down there. So hints at the NAO being a little bit negative. But also got low pressure up here. So not a particularly cold pattern, although there could be some changeable conditions perhaps at times, but it does look quite unsettled in November. That's December. Look at that, going for a big area of high pressure to be dominating over Scandinavia. That's a massive Scandinavian high, but we've got there during December with low pressure underneath it down here. The winds would be in from the east, so that looks like a cold December. Will it be a December to remember? Well, it's too far away to say that, but it does look like we'll probably have quite a cold month in December with easterly winds if that came off. And then this goes on into January. January becomes even more the blocking sort of positioning up towards Iceland. Again, back to Scandinavia. Low pressure is underneath it through many central parts of Europe. The winds again will probably be streaming in from the east. Remember, this is a 30-day anomaly. It's a monthly anomaly, so you get deviations from this through the month, but it does look like a cold, wintry, easterly month in January. Then there's that slight hint of moderation for February. So we still have the broad negative NAO, AO type pattern. The low pressure is still down here, but the high pressure is more to the west of the UK. And so that does allow slightly less cold air to come from sort of a westerly, northwesterly type direction. So yes, I suspect there will still be wintry outbreaks in February, but not as cold as December or January. Moderation in the late winter. And then finally we get to March. Actually, we're going to quite a nice early spring sort of pattern. Completely different to 2018, of course, when March, particularly the coldest outbreak, anyway, happened at the end of February and into March of the winter 2017-18. This is different. It has high pressure to our south, low pressure is up to the north, and the winds will be coming up from a west-southwesterly direction. So all of the interest really is with December, January, to some degree February from a cold perspective, but particularly looks particularly cold and potentially snowy at times, I would have thought, in both December and in January. I can show you another view of this actually. Let's have a look at the Americas. And that does show a little bit better for Greenland. So again, let's just quickly flip back into October. That's how things look in October. So you can see how extensive the high pressure is to our south in October with low pressure up to the north. We can't see Scandinavia here, but we do know that high pressure is up there over Scandinavia. So not particularly unsettled and not particularly cold either in October. That's November. Notice how the high pressure is moving much further southwards and heading over towards Bermuda, that sort of area, with this low pressure down here. It does hint, and I suspect if this came off, high pressure would probably be stronger around here. So you can see already in November the signs are there for a cold pattern setting itself up. That's December, of course. Then we are into a cold pattern. The Azores high is pushed way to our south. We've got low pressure here in the place of the Azores high. We've got high pressure there to our northeast. So again, you can see just how extensive a blocking signal is, and that would be undoubtedly a cold December if that came off. That's January. January potentially looking, dare I say it, a little bit severe actually from a blocking perspective anyway, with very extensive high pressure to the north, and these deep areas of low pressure are to the south of it, with the jet stream going through there as well. So you can see how those seasonal charts at Copernicus were coming by such a blocked pattern there. And January really does look potentially a very wintry month indeed. And then we're through to February, and then you just see the signs of a moderation, the above average heights kind of moving, or the high pressures kind of moving more into the northern Atlantic, low pressures underneath it. It's still cold, there will still be cold outbreaks, but just a little bit more influence from the jet stream and the Atlantic coming around the edge of that high pressure. And then that's March finally. And then we are into spring. I would think we'd be all ready for a bit of spring by that point, with high pressure to the south and low pressure out to the northwest. Have I got time to show you anything else? So yeah, let's just show you very quickly. I can go back to October. And I'll very quickly show you the temperature anomalies for the next 6 months. So just go to Europe and Africa, and then we'll go to Europe as well. There we go. So that's how the temperature anomaly is looking in October. A little bit warmer than average for many central northern parts of Europe, close to average for the UK and for Ireland in October. November actually looks relatively mild, so despite the fact it appeared the cold pattern was beginning to set itself up in November, relatively mild with those temperature anomalies. Close to average in December. A little bit colder than average in January. I would expect both, well, I'd expect November, December, and especially January to be even colder than that is shown, than those charts are showing. So it's overdoing the temperatures, but it is still managing to come out with a rather colder than average January, you'll notice. Moderation in February, but could still be a cold month. And then actually March, you would have thought March would be a little bit milder than that is showing. Then finally, I can just show you the precipitation on a month-by-month basis. So that's the last thing we've got to do. That's the one. And we can see that in October, it's going for a bit of a mixed bag, but for the UK and Ireland, it's coming out a little bit drier than average, as it is for much of Northern Europe. Again, November looks a bit of a mixed bag, and even in the UK, we have got variation, drier in the north and west, wetter down in the south and east. That's December. Now, that's quite interesting. You'll notice how much drier than average it is across Scandinavia and also around here, but you'll notice down this eastern side in December it's above average with precipitation. That will presumably be caused by snow being brought in on those easterly winds. Then we go through to January. We're in a classic negative AO and NAO pattern here, so it's drier than average to the north, it's wetter than average to the south. That looks like it could be quite a severe month, I have to say, based on what the ECM is showing in January. It's a very, very long way off. It's probably will almost certainly moderate when we do this update in October, but that does look quite mouth-watering from a cold perspective in January. And then finally through to February, again a bit of a mixed bag, but mainly on the drier side still for February, perhaps into it being a little bit wetter into March. So that's it, and what an interesting update that one was. So if you want a cold winter, well, some of those charts are as good as they get for a cold winter, particularly the ECMWF. Looks rather front-loaded as well, I have to say. It looks like December, possibly January though too, so that's into the middle of winter. Those 2 months do potentially hold the most wintry prospects here, with a bit of moderation through February and then maybe hints of early spring in March. But again, the caveat with this is that it's all a very, very long way off. This is subject to change. It's pushing the envelope stuff. It's unreliable. So it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of a laugh. But and they are sort of at the better range of the models. I know the ProMets particularly take the ECMWF model seriously. But it's such early days this. It's only September. We've got many weeks still to go before we get to winter. And so I think we need to stay cautious about this. We need to keep our feet well and truly on the ground. There goes the light going up again. I'm hoping that it's going to hold out until I get the video done. I'm going to wrap it up very shortly. So it's very early days. It's all subject to change, but certainly a little bit of eye candy for anybody who wants a cold winter in today's or this month's ECM and Meteo France seasonal update. Right, so later on today, the fourth Winter 2018-19 update will be placed on the Winter Updates page with written summary. Tomorrow videos will be sort of normal videos, your week to 10 day weather musing video will be with you tomorrow. But at nearly 29 minutes, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.